All right, you guys. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today we have, so the format or way this is going to go, we have Molly Fiedler here with us. And I'll kind of give her a brief introduction, let her say hello to you guys. And then we'll go through just a couple of questions that you guys have. I don't anticipate this going, more than like 40 minutes. Just really depends on kind of content. But you have, first, so Molly Fiedler played for St. Croix, went on to become a Gopher. Actually, I looked this stat up. You played and started in every single game of your career. So congratulations. That's very hard to do, very rare. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
You guys, yeah, two seasons you guys won the conference tournament championship. Right, and you got to play the national tournament 3 times in your career while you were there. So that's awesome. That's definitely a lot of really cool memories. And then after that, you signed with, gosh, I tried to figure out how to say this, but what is the name of the team? How do you say it?
Yeah, ZFK Spartak.
Yes, ZFK Spartak.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and you're back now. But yeah, so real quick, I'll let you just kind of, say hello, and if I left out any detail there, and then we'll move on with a couple of questions. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Feel free to ask anything and everything. I want to be here to help you guys, so ask away.
Is there anybody brave enough to go with the first question? Otherwise, I have a couple here to get us going to buy you guys a little bit of time. And if you'd rather put it in the chat and have me ask, you can definitely do that too. Okay. While we wait, I will start us off. Okay, I want to know. So tell us about. I want to go to like your Gopher playing days here. What was, looking back on your career, like what was your all-time? What was a favorite goal that you scored? Can you tell us about it? I looked at, you had some impressive ones there.
Yeah. So I honestly didn't score very many goals, but my senior year we were playing Stanford at home, and Stanford has been like the #1 team forever, basically. And I didn't know this going into the game, but they had like a ridiculous amount of minutes of like not being scored on in the run of play. But anyways, I think it was the second half, and my teammate Patricia Ward got the ball down the right side of the field. She took it end line, and honestly, it like happened in slow motion for me, but she kind of crossed the ball in front of the keeper and behind the back line, so right on the 6-yard box on the ground. And like in my mind, everybody like froze, and I just saw the ball and I ran and I just tapped it in, really. So that was probably the coolest goal because Stanford is such a powerhouse.
And I could tell you how many minutes that was. 2,243 minutes of a shutout.
Yeah.
In the run of play.
Yeah. And I had no idea, honestly, until after the game. I think my dad told me, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that is definitely memorable. I'm sure there's a lot of players, even that back line and that goalkeeper, that are going to remember that one for a while.
I hope so.
So I wanted to ask you about so your playing days. I mean, I guess kind of comparing the two. You played a lot of minutes, as a Gopher. And then when you went overseas to play, like what were some of the noticeable differences in terms of maybe the speed of play or the physicality, anything that just kind of stood out for you as soon as you got there?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing wasn't necessarily like speed of play, but kind of like at the U, everything was like high pressure. If you lose the ball, you win it back right away, and we're going to press you really high up the field. And when I got to Serbia, like the girls took more touches on the ball. Like, they're very talented, but they would take more touches on the ball, and it wasn't as like high pressure. So that was different to adjust to.
Mhm.
And then they just have like a different style of play. Like, everything that I have been used to has kind of been like going forward, kind of transition play, but they really like slow the game down and take more touches and make smaller passes. So the whole style of play was very different.
Nice. Did it the physicality side of it? So like they definitely take more touches, a little bit. Sorry, I got my kids in the background. um, was it? How do you rate like the physicality level of the game here versus there?
That part was pretty even, honestly. I think that the girls like don't necessarily look as like athletic maybe or fit, but they definitely throw in some challenges. So that part didn't really change that much in my opinion.
Okay, cool. And I guess the other question I have too is, so you're adapting to a little bit different of a style of play. Um, how was that with, did you, I assume more of your teammates, like what was the language that was mostly spoken? Was it several languages? Did you have to quickly figure out how you're going to communicate
Yeah.
with your new?
Yeah, so they speak Serbian, and it's honestly a pretty difficult language to pick up. But there was 6 Americans total, so me plus 5 other girls, and the coaches spoke okay English, and there was probably 4 to 5 girls on the team that spoke very good English. So at the beginning, they would kind of translate everything for us. And then as it went on, you just pick up on little words here and there. And funny enough, like for some reason, the soccer language they use is like pretty much the same. Like pass is pass and shoot is shoot. And weirdly, face to face is face to face. And like position is slightly different, but it sounds the same. The funniest one is like crossing the ball, they call it center shoot. So that was funny. But yeah, so we had a little bit of translation and then you kind of just pick up on it.
Okay, awesome. And when you were there, was it a part of like the Women's Champions League that you were able to be a part of? That's
Yeah.
awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So because my team had won the like domestic league in Serbia the year before, we qualified for the Champions League. But because Serbia is a smaller country, you have to play like in the qualifications round. So we went to Slovakia and we were there for about 10 days and we played a team from Slovakia, a team from Hungary, and another team that I don't even know where they were from. And we ended up winning that. So then we made it to the round of 32. And so at that point, they like draw teams out of a bowl to like match you up. So we drew Atletico Madrid. And it's like a 2-leg round. So they came and played us in Serbia. And then about a month later, we went there and we played them in Spain. And that was a super, super cool experience. When we played them in Serbia, we ended up losing 3-2 in the 90th minute. So that was a huge bummer. And then we went there and we were actually winning 1-0 until the 88th minute, and then they tied it up. So we ended up not moving on, but that was a really, really cool experience to play against the top players in Spain and even the world. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. I love the Champions League, just bringing teams together that don't normally see each other and even battle it out.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome. So I want to open it up to just a couple of questions from from the viewers, members of the club. You guys can put them in the group chat or you can chime in. But we have Molly is a wonderful resource in terms of her college days, professional days. Like I'm sure we're all wanting to know what that process was like. I have more questions, but I don't want to ask all of them. I will chime in after I hear from a couple others. So if you have a question, go for it. There we go. What do we got? I have one here. So one person wants to know, like, what was the quality that you had with your team, your Serbian team, that not many others had? Like, what did you feel made you, unique or special in that with that group?
That's a good question. I think something that made me unique, maybe even in college, is my ability to like transition. So to go from offense to defense or defense to offense, but get it going quickly. And I think that helped my Serbian teammates a lot because they didn't really like to defend that much. So playing in the midfield, I was able to like win it back for them and then get the offense going up the field. So I think that was unique to me.
Okay, and I remember that transition speed from even your days at St. Paul Academy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yes, I remember catching some of those games, and boy, were you quick. So that's okay. That's definitely a good tenacious player that transitions quickly is always wonderful to have. I have another one on here. So what was the biggest reason? So it's kind of a question. I also ask, did you always want the U? If not, did you look at other schools? And then two is when you decided on the U, what was the biggest reason for you?
Good question. So I actually played for MTA for my high school years, and we played in the ECNL. And so when we would travel around for games, my coach made a point of visiting the like specific colleges while we were there, so we could see different things and talk to the coaches and ask questions and stuff. So I was actually able to visit a lot of different places, which was really cool. But when we had a home game, and Stephanie Golan, the head coach, was there, and I played really well. I remember that game actually, and she ended up reaching out to my coach, my head coach, and he like put me in contact with her. And so when I went and visited the U, I fell in love with the campus and the staff. I loved the staff, and I really liked the idea of being close enough to home that my family could come see my games, but still far enough away that I was on my own. I was nervous about it being a big school because I came from such a small private school in high school, but that kind of excited me as well to have a little bit of a change and something bigger. So I did look at other schools, but I didn't really talk to them as seriously as I talked to the U of M. So that is how that happened.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, it sounds like the distance was kind of played a little bit of a role where you didn't want to go too far. Having family be a big part of the experience was also a big deal.
For
Okay.
sure. Also, my brother played baseball for the U, and at the time he was thinking about going there too. So we kind of made our decision together to both go there. So.
Oh, that's awesome. A little known fact not many people are going to know.
Yeah, there you go.
So I have another. One of them has to do with your training environment when you were younger. So like, how often did you practice when you were younger? And younger, maybe, I don't know, maybe before the high school days, and then around the high school days, like if it changed, how often were you training?
That's a good question. If I can remember correctly, I think I probably practiced with my team about 3 times a week. But
Mhm.
then my dad played college soccer as well, so he would always like just play with me in my front yard, and we had a goal, so I would do a lot of just stuff on my own. So I would probably say that I think I touched the soccer ball probably every day of the week, but as like organized training or training, hard, it probably was 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay. 3 to 4 times a week, organized, and then you also did some additional work with yourself.
Yeah.
What did you study at the U?
Oh, I got my major is in family social science, and I have a minor in youth studies.
Awesome. And what was that balance like? That's definitely something, I don't know if all players are thinking about it. Maybe as they get older, they think about it, but what was that balance like being a student athlete, and then handling a rigorous major?
Yeah. So I was really fortunate that the U cared a lot about our academics. They wanted us to succeed not only in soccer, but in the classroom as well. So we had access to a lot of really good resources. We were able to get a tutor for any class that we needed, and we had a really good academic advisor that would kind of help plan our schedules for success. But it took a little bit of an adjustment, just like any class you're taking, really, how much you need to put in and what all the professors are looking for. But you kind of learn to make a good relationship with your professors so that if you're on the road or, caught up in training and stuff, they kind of have your back a little bit because you put in like the work to build that trust and that relationship. So it took a little bit. I think my freshman year was a little hard, but I think I figured it out by my sophomore year.
No, that's actually really good advice, is build the relationships with your professors. That way it helps balance everything out. When you need something, they know you, they know who you are, and they'll help you. Okay, awesome. So here's a good one. So Sydney asks, when did you know that you wanted to go pro? At what point in your college career did you think, did it go from dream to reality? How did that happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think ever since I was little, like that was always the dream, like to play professional soccer. But I don't think it really became a reality until after my sophomore year. 3 of my senior teammates decided to go pro, and so seeing them go pro and kind of like learning the process of what they had to do to get there and everything like that really made it a reality. When I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do, so I'm gonna plan now so that I can be there in 2-3 years. So yeah, I guess my sophomore year of college.
That's awesome. So then that's when you kind of knew this is a possibility for me. You mentioned kind of having seen upperclassmen go through it, and then a process. Like, what did you have to get an agent? How soon does that start? I can't. It's awesome that you had teammates that kind of went through it that you could learn a little bit from. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. So sophomore year, something I can do. What are the next steps?
Yeah, so you can't have an agent while you're playing for the NCAA. So I had to wait until after my senior season when I was done with college soccer completely. And then I got an agent, which I used the same agent that my teammates used, mostly because I didn't really know of anybody else. But now I know there's a lot of agencies and a lot of options. But he had a lot of contacts in various countries. So I got in contact with him. He's based out of California, so we would just talk on the phone. He asked me a little bit about myself, what I was looking for, like in terms of like where I wanted to play, if there was a specific place I wanted to go, or a general region, or what level. I I was really fortunate in that my assistant coach, Molly Rouse, and then our director of ops, SJ, made a highlight tape for me, so I didn't have to do that. But they put together a really, really good highlight tape, which I also sent to my agent. And then from there, like there's 2 different like transfer windows technically in like European soccer, because they play, I guess in like European soccer specifically, they play from like August to November, and then they have a month or 2 off, and then they start again. It's like February to May. So the transfer windows are kind of summer and like winter, like December, January. So not much really opens up until those transfer windows because teams don't really know what they need or if people are leaving or coming in. So I kind of just waited until summer. And then it was beginning of June, he reached out to me and said there's this team in Serbia who wants a midfielder. They're really interested in you. It kind of gave me some information on them. So I looked them up and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And that's how that happened.
That's awesome. When you got the news, what was that? What was that like? A little bit of nerves, excitement, scared?
Yeah, it was all of the above. I personally knew nothing about Serbia. I didn't really even know where it was, so I kind of had to look that up. But then, yeah, it was really exciting. I had traveled a couple times, to Europe, but not a lot. So I was excited to be able to see a different part of the world that I don't think I would have seen otherwise. So I was really excited about that, but nervous because I didn't know the language. I didn't know if they would speak English. I was lucky enough that I knew I had 5 other American teammates going. So that made me feel better that I could at least communicate with some people. But yeah, very nervous and excited and just wanting to get there and get it started.
That's awesome. So a couple other questions that came in here. I think these are cool. So when did you know you wanted to be a pro? Do you eat anything at halftime? Some of the players are curious. Do you have a go-to snack? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, at the U, our strength and conditioning coach would always stock up our locker room with all sorts of energy food, like bars and those fruit snacks and stuff like that. I never liked to eat anything at halftime. Once I got going, I wasn't hungry for hours after a game, really, but he would try and make us eat something just to keep our energy level up and make sure that we still have the fuel to go. So I would have to eat some little bites of things sometimes, but if I had a choice, I would prefer not to.
Okay. No, that's good. It's preference. I've had players in college, handful of trail mix or nuts or, the gummies. Everybody, they all have different brands, but yeah. So I personally, I would get sick if I ate at halftime and then had to play again. So now kind of going with that, do you have any advice on, did you ever think about what to eat before a game, how long before a game, what got you ready to compete?
Yeah, we were super fortunate at the U that they honestly planned that all out for us. So Friday night games would be about 7 o'clock, and so we would have a team dinner at maybe 4 o'clock, I think.
Okay.
Does that sound right? 3 hours before, maybe 3 o'clock. So 3 to 4 hours before the game, and we'd have a big pasta meal essentially with some chicken, so a little bit of protein. So yeah, about 3 or 4 hours before, and then I wouldn't really eat anything until after the game. I would drink a lot of water always, right up to the whistle, a lot of water, yeah. And then Sunday games, those were earlier in the day, a noon or a 1 o'clock. So we would have breakfast at 8 or 9 maybe. So about 3 to 4 hours before always, I guess. But yeah, that's what we would do.
Okay, that's good advice. I have another one here. Let's see. Did you ever have any significant injuries or setbacks in your career?
Good question. So honestly, not really. When I was younger, I broke my collarbone and I cracked my femur, weirdly enough, in a soccer game. And I was born with a fractured back, kind of it's cracked a little bit. But those were all leading up to college, and then in college my hamstrings were pretty tight, so I always struggled with tight or sore hamstrings. It wasn't until my sophomore year I like rolled my ankle in a preseason game, and from that point on I had really bad ankles, so I would probably roll my ankles like every 2 weeks. So I'd always have to get them taped. But other than that, I haven't really had any serious injuries, knock on wood.
No, right now. um,
Yeah.
with the bad ankles, did you ever, just as you're watching the ball and just walking, like just kind of tweak it a little bit? We've all done that ankle.
All the time. I remember specifically in my junior year, we were playing at Northwestern, and we had done or like in the middle of our warm up, and we were doing a possession game. It hadn't even started yet, and I was like walking onto the field to get into my place, and I like rolled my ankle and had to go get it taped. And oh, it's so bad.
Yep, it's probably happened to every soccer player at some point. Um, the Someone asked, I have two here. So, were you nervous to play in your first collegiate game?
Very nervous. Yeah, so my coach told me the day before that I was going to be starting, and I like couldn't sleep at all that night. I was so excited, but I was so nervous because like I wanted to do well. I wanted to prove that I belonged there. I was lucky. It was actually against NDSU, and I had about 5 club teammates that were on that team. So that kind of helped a little bit because I like knew the people I was playing, so it made it a little less stressful. But very nervous, very excited.
Okay, awesome. That would help a lot if I knew there were some friends on that other team. Uh,
Yeah.
this is a good one here. So, do you have any tips for the college recruiting process? Like talking to coaches or ID camps. Like we got a lot of players that have aspirations to play. And they hear tips from coaches all the time. But like from a player who did it and had a successful career, like what's some advice that you'd give to players?
That's a good question. I would say be really active about talking to coaches. I wouldn't wait for them to come to you or to reach out to you. If you know you're interested in a school or you like the idea of the school or whatever, I would say just reach out. It can't hurt because then they know that you're interested and you're on their radar then. So be really active in that communication. I would also say if they reach back out to you, like make sure that you respond in a timely manner to show that you, one, respect them, but two, really are interested and care about what they have to offer in the school. If you are super interested in the school, I would say definitely go to the ID camp. That way the coaches can see you play in person and you can show them what you can bring to the table and who you can compete against and stuff like that. So if you're really interested in a school, I would definitely go to an ID camp. And I think personally just be open to a lot of different schools. Like I knew I wanted to play in college. I thought that I would want to go to like a smaller school since I went to a smaller high school and I'm a more reserved person, so I thought maybe a smaller school would be a better fit. So the U wasn't really on my radar. But I'm really, really happy that I was open to talking to the coaches and visiting the campus and all that because I fell in love right away. So just have an open mind going into new situations, I guess.
Okay, awesome. That leads me to two others. Kind of looking at the chat, trying to pick and choose the right time to ask some of these. But so one of the questions was just about adjusting to a new coach. New style, new system. There's a lot of new. So what is that adjustment process like? Because you did it at the U, and then you did it again. Playing in Serbia. And then someone asked, playing at that Big Ten level, like how did you prepare for it? So, what is that adjustment like to new? Like describe that level and preparing for that level.
Good question. The adjustment, again, just go in with an open mind. Like if you choose to play college soccer and that's what you want to do, you know that you have like this foundation, you're technical enough, you're fit enough, you're athletic enough because you made it there. So now it's like being open to hearing what the coaches want from you, and that may be playing a new position. That happens a lot. In preseason, coaches might try and throw you around. Like if you were a forward, they might put you at defender or in the midfield just to see how you fit. So don't come in thinking that I'm a forward and I'm going to be a forward. Like be open, because ultimately you want to be on the field. So if you can play right back, like play right back, because then you're on the field. So being open-minded, also asking a lot of questions helps me a lot. Every coach has a style and a system that they truly believe in. So asking not only like after the moment, but in the moment, if something happens and you're not sure of it, like turning to the coach or turning to a teammate and just clarifying really helps me. And then what did I do to prepare? I think you just really have to trust in yourself and the people around you. I knew that I put in a lot of work to get to where I was, and then in preseason, I just wanted to like do everything that I could for the team. Like I wanted to practice hard to make my teammates better, and I wanted to go into tackles hard and take people on to make me better, but make everybody else around me better. And you know, if the coaches believed in me, then I'm going to do everything I can and believe in them and their system. So just believing in yourself and like relying on the basics, really.
Good. That's a wonderful answer. Like, you know, you got there. Like you're there for a reason. So, you know, go all out. Don't hold anything back. And it's very selfless too. You're working hard for your teammates. So make them better, make them work hard, which is going to make them better. The preseason. What is your favorite memory from preseason?
Oh gosh. Memory. The first one that comes to mind, so how we structured our preseason, the first day was all meetings. You got your gear, you did your headshot, you had team meetings about expectations, and then the next day, the very first thing you did was our fitness test. And then we'd have a break, and then at night we'd have a scrimmage. And for us, our fitness test was a big deal, because if you didn't pass, you got to rerun it. Like you still could play in preseason, everything, and then a week later you had to run it again. And if you didn't pass the second time, then you couldn't play until you passed. So it was this really big deal, because you just wanted to get it out of the way so that you could actually play soccer and do what you love and what you're there for. So I guess my best memory is my senior year, passing my fitness test and just being done with it, and passing each the first time. That was really nice. So that's probably the best memory.
Once you pass it, it's done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what somebody has a question here. What would you recommend? So it's kind of shifting gears now, probably back to the advice piece for players. What would you recommend for players to do at home to get ready to going back and playing? You know, I think right now we've all been stuck up for a little bit. Oh, go ahead. Was somebody chiming in? No, okay. Yeah. What would you recommend to them? What kind of advice do you have?
That is a good question. I think trying to get touches on the ball as much as you can. I know that you guys are still in like distance learning and you still have other obligations that you have to do, but if you can just like touch a ball every day, even if it's just juggling or passing against the wall or little things like that, just to keep like your touches, your technical ability. And then on the other side, just staying active, like going for runs, I guess, or doing a harder workout with the ball, just so that you keep both like the technical side, but also the physical side, because that's always like a pretty hard adjustment is like getting back into game shape and being able to like train hard. So if you can do it by yourself and not go through the motions and actually like put in hard work and challenge yourself, I think it will make the transition back a little bit easier.
Okay, awesome. It's good advice. I had two questions come in quick as you were wrapping up the preseason talk about passing the fitness test. So someone asked, what is it? And then someone else wants to know, is it normal to pass the first time? Like, do most people pass the first time? And kind of what does that breakdown look like?
Yeah, at the U, we ran the yo-yo test. So it's like the pacer or the beep test, I think it's also called. But yeah, we would run that, and we had a certain standard that you had to get to. I know there's a whole bunch of different kinds. Ours was like the yo-yo intermittent beep test or something, and we had to get to level 17-1. Was it common? I would say most people would pass it the first time. There's always a handful of people that wouldn't. But the ones, for most of the people who wouldn't, a lot of it was like mental, just all of like the nerves and the anxiety and the anticipation leading up to it. So the second time that they would run it, they would usually pass. I think my 4 years there, each year we would have one girl who could never pass it, but that's out of 25 to 26 girls. So yeah, most people do pass it, and they put in the work in the summer in order to be able to do that.
Okay, good. Yeah, the yo-yo intermittent recovery test. Well, everybody will have fond memories of it, the beeps and the levels. 17-1, it's pretty high, pretty good standard there. So you absolutely have to put in the work. I don't think 17-1 just kind of happens for you as an athlete. No.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So that's good to know. So a lot of people do pass the first time. A lot of it is mental. I would 100% agree that you got to figure out a way to tear down those mental barriers and just keep going, and then really get to that second win and just keep pushing. So definitely doable. I had one question that I glossed over here towards the beginning, and it's a good one towards the end here. What is you put a lot of time into soccer, right? Many years, many hours. Like, what is it? What do you like about it? What's your favorite part just about the game in general?
Everything. I love the team aspect of soccer. I love being able to form these unique friendships and bonds with your teammates. I love competing. I love laying my body on the line. I love doing all this hard work and hating it in the moment, but knowing that something great is going to come from it. And I love the creativity it allows you. I love being able to express yourself without saying anything. I love all the memories that it creates, and that you are able to form with a whole bunch of different people over, well, for me, like 22 years. Yeah, I don't know, everything.
No, those are all really good, just great responses, like teams and memories. And I mean, right now the experience in Serbia, it's like, gosh, you work so hard to have these opportunities and just enjoy everything about that moment.
Yeah.
So I guess now it's like, what's next? What are you doing right now in your downtime to kind of stay prepared, and what does the rest of your kind of soccer look like for the year?
Yeah. As the pandemic was kind of starting to happen, I was looking at going to play in New Zealand, but that fizzled out, obviously, because we can't travel.
Right.
So I'm really not sure what will come next if I do go somewhere, if I decide to be done. But yeah, I'm still training. I play soccer, tennis, pretty much every day. Go for runs, just yeah.
So staying ready for the next adventure,
Yeah.
wherever that would take you. That's awesome. Well, does anybody else have a question or would like to chime in? I'm really appreciate your time and just being able to cover so many topics and being able to bounce between topics has been great. Thank you. But I think, a lot of people here, they'll continue playing wherever they end up playing. Like, it's really nice to hear from a player like you who's experienced so much success, who can pass on a little bit of advice. Maybe it sparks some new interests or bigger goals in one of our younger players, or maybe it gets some of our olders like driven, focused, and motivated because, hey, after this summer, they're going to start kind of their big steps. So yeah, I really appreciate your time. And yeah, I wish you the very best of luck. Can't wait to see you around the field house. And that's it.